This is Robert Kraft, and I'm your host on SNN.Network. And joining me today is Jin Kang. He is the president and CEO of WidePoint Corporation. It's a publicly traded company. The symbol is WYY on the NYSE American. And WidePoint will be presenting at our upcoming in-person investor conference, the Planet MicroCap Showcase, taking place May 3rd through the 5th, 2022 in Las Vegas at the Bally's Hotel and Casino. With that, Jin, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
Thank you, Robert. Doing great. Thank you for having us on your show. I mean, we really appreciate it. And we're really looking forward to your show in Vegas coming up here in a couple, 3 weeks.
I know it's I blink and it's here already, but so with that, let's give I'd love to get, this is our first time doing an interview together, and I'd love to give the folks that are either coming to Vegas, thinking about coming to Vegas, or just in general want to learn a little bit more about WidePoint. Can you give us that quick overview and history of the company?
Sure. We are definitely coming to Vegas. We are looking forward to the opportunity to meet investors and potential investors. And we're not actively seeking capital at this point, but we want to be prepared when the time comes. Our high priority right now is inorganic and organic growth. And we have now stabilized the company. Going back, the company was founded in 1997 and grew through inorganic and organic growth, mostly through inorganic growth. Company was run as a sort of a portfolio company, if you will. And then fast forward to 2016, 2017, the company was looking around for a new CEO, and the company was struggling mightily in terms of being able to make profits and continue operations. And in the second half of 2017, the company was maybe a quarter away from insolvency. And one of the largest investors in the company decided that they wanted to affect the management change, which they did. And so that brought me and a couple of other executive managers to the management team. And since then, since the third quarter of 2017, we have been adjusted EBITDA positive. And so that's going now 18 consecutive quarters of adjusted EBITDA positive. We ended the 2021 with roughly $6.5 million in cash. We did a small acquisition that's going to add about $10 million in top line revenue with $1.5 million in adjusted EBITDA. We finished 2021 with $87 million in revenues, with roughly $3.8 million in adjusted EBITDA. Zero debt, right? 95% recurring revenues. And we haven't offered guidance yet, but we will in our first quarter call, as we usually do. We operate in a $23 billion market, and the mobility management market that is continuing to grow. And so we're pretty excited about, the prospects. We are the provider of technology management solutions that includes identity and access management, or what we call IAM, managed mobility services, MMS, unified communication as a service, UCaaS, and IT as a service, and IT as a service, or ITaaS, and essentially it's an outsourcing of our customers' IT needs. And so those three things combined, those four elements combined, is what we call trusted mobility management as a service, or TMAAS, technology management as a service, right? And so that's what we're moving out with. We're getting a lot of traction, specifically in our identity management side, because there's a lot of things that are happening with the war in Ukraine. There's some additional threats from the Russians, talking about cyber attacks, utility companies, government systems. All of these systems need to be secured, and we provide the strongest identity and access management solution that is available on the market today. And it is quantum resistant, meaning the encryption that we use is quantum resistant.
Very good.
And so I know that was a long, intro to WidePoint, but we are, we are very excited about, our prospects and our near future.
No, thank you for that full overview. It's really important to give some context and where the company is currently at in its existence. So, talking about the company's technologies itself and the products that you offer, what would you say makes them unique and different compared to some of your peers out there?
Right. And, as I said, our identity and access management solution is unique. It is the strongest multi-factor authentication that is available on the market today, bar none, right? It is implemented. It has been tested, implemented in all of the federal government agencies of the U.S., DoD included, right? And it uses this quantum resistant cryptography so that everything that you do, using your computer, everything that you do from the time that you log on, the time that you send emails or save a file or send a file or receive a file is all done using this encryption. And this is the only encryption that has not been hacked, right? So far, right? There's a program called the Pegasus program out of Israel that's run, and that system that application has been able to breach every encryption and every identity management solution that is out there in the market today, except for our public key infrastructure, PKI, that is implemented by the Department of Defense and all of the federal government agencies in the US, right? And so what we're doing with that solution is that we're taking that solution and bringing it now to the commercial world, right? And so that's what sets us apart. And we layer that identity management solution on top of all of the services that we provide, right? And go ahead.
You want to finish that thought?
Yeah, so we provide all of those, the identity management through all of the layers of services that we provide. Managed mobility services, unified communication as a service, digital billing and analytics, and IT as a service, right? And so IT as a service is a new service that we have recently purchased through the acquisition of a company called IT Authorities. And what they do is they manage the IT infrastructure for their customers, for our customers now, right from, emails, Microsoft Office, spreadsheets, payroll systems, your share file systems, and all of these things they manage for their customers. And so because they do that, they also field questions like, hey, I forgot my user ID and password. Well, when we implement our identity management solution, it replaces all of that. It replaces the user ID and password and that one-time randomly generated number, and it replaces it with the strongest multi-factor authentication that is available on the market today. Now, I will show you this. If you've gone out to any federal government agencies, if you've gone out to the airport, you'll see the TSA agents carrying these badges. And these badges have this smart chip on them, right? And we are one of 2 external certificate authorities that can issue these certificates that they use in order to log in, get physical and logical access to their infrastructure, whether it's the office, whether it's their computer, whether it's their email. And then what you do is you use a reader like this. See, I got show and tell here, right?
You're getting after it today.
Look at this. And then you slide the reader into the card into that reader, right? And then now you have, the quantum resistant encryption and identity management that you can use to send emails, exchange files, IMs, everything that you do online is now protected using that PKI system. Does that make sense? And so because we manage the IT infrastructure for those customers, now what we'll say is, hey, by the way, we're going to give you the highest security that's available on the market. And at the same time, we're going to replace your user ID and password. You don't need to do that anymore. You don't have to punch in your user ID and password. You don't have to wait for your randomly generated number to log into your system anymore. So it's a one-stop identity management solution that is the most secure identity management solution that is available on the market today.
Very good. And what's your background? I mean, I think you came into the business, what, 5, 6 years ago, something like that?
Yeah. So I'm a computer scientist by training. I mean, I went to University of Maryland, got my bachelor's in computer science, got my master's in computer systems management. This was back when computers were considered, Abacus was considered computers. It was a while back, not that far back, but it was a while back. 1986 is when I graduated with my bachelor's in computer science. And at the time, I mean, I'm just half kidding. At the time, the computer industry was going through so much flux. When I first signed on to the class, they were using deck writers, which is almost like a typewriter that you use to write programs, right? And then by the time I was done, they were introducing the Apple IIes, and at the time that was IBM PCs and XTs. And so it went through from these deck writers to mainframes to micros, and what you see today, and now like all these microcomputers and laptops. That was the next step, and then of course tablets, right? And so by training, I'm a computer scientist, and I joined WidePoint back in 2008. I had started a company back at the turn of the millennium, which will be 1999, turning into 2000, right? People were all worried about the Y2K bug and all of this stuff. That was a tough time to start a business because there was this big dot-com bust that happened during that time. But we survived through all of that, right? We survived. The company survived. The company that I started was a company called ISIS LLC. That's ISYS, not ISIS, like the Middle Eastern contingent, right? And so I started that company back in 1999, and then grew that business to roughly like $20 million in revenue. And WidePoint came calling. WidePoint, several other companies came calling. They were looking for an acquisition target. And we said, we're not out here, we're not up for sale, but make us an offer we can't refuse, right? And so they did. So I joined the company when my company was bought by WidePoint back in 2008. And now that part of the company that I sold is roughly 85% of the revenue of the company. And so as the company was struggling, it was one of those situations where I was going to sell the company and retire, right? And I almost did that back in 2010, 11, because I had a 3-year earnout. And at that point, I was going to say, okay, I'm going to retire from ISIS / WidePoint Corporation. Then I saw the company that I had essentially nurtured from babyhood up until it was sold in 2008. It was continuing to grow, and it was healthy, and it was continuing to add to WidePoint revenues and profitability. But the rest of the organization was struggling really, really bad. And so the last thing I wanted to do is this entity that I created, I didn't want this entity to go down the drain. So I stayed on, and I helped the management team at the time to continue to grow the business. So fast forward to 2017, as the company was continuing to struggle, something had to be done, and one of the largest investors at the time decided that they wanted to affect a management change, which brought the new management team in place. And so the new management team is the same as the old management team. Essentially what happened was the CFO and the CEO left, and then the people within the organization was promoted from within, right? And so because of that, we knew where all of the skeletons were buried. We went right to work July of 2017. We made all of the tweaks and the changes and cuts that we needed to in order to make the company profitable and stabilize the company, which we did. We ended that third quarter EBITDA positive, and then we never looked back. We kept adding cash to the balance sheet. We kept adding cash to the balance sheet. So fast forward now to 2021, third quarter, we bought a company called IT Authorities, right? And so that's how I, ended up here. And we spent some of the cash that we had, that we had built up, and we did it without any financing. We didn't, sell equities. We didn't have to do any of that. We did it with the cash that we had on our balance sheet, right? And so now that we have done that and we've done it successfully and we're in the process of integrating that, we want to do more. We want to do a larger deal. We want to look around and see what else is accretive and get out of this, what they call microcap hell, right? We want to get to the point where we say, okay, let's look out there, find companies that are like us, that are stable, growing, right? And that they have a very strong customer base, and then cross-sell and upsell. Right. And that's what we're doing with IT Authorities, that company that we recently purchased. They're in the beverage industry. And I can tell you that it's not Pepsi. But we're working with, because we have, non-disclosure in place, we're not allowed to, say who we're courting and who we're closing and things of that sort. And so we're finding a lot of, fertile fields there. These beverage industries are in these consortiums, and they have like these large organizations that they belong to. And if you are in with, a bottler, what they will do is they will become your proponent, right? And bring you in to the other bottlers, right? Because they're all working in a consortium. So let's say you capture a bottler that has 5,000 devices, 5,000 users, 5,000 endpoints, and then they represent a consortium of 300,000 endpoints, 300,000 users. And so this is the type of opportunity that we're talking about. And so because we are a small company, I think that there are lots of opportunities there for us to close on multiple material contracts that could change the complexion of our company overnight, right? And so, but you have to be in the game. You cannot be constantly, like circling the drain and you're out of business in a month or 2 months or a quarter, right? 100%. And so what we have done is create that runway. We have plenty of runway. Now what we need to do is close some of these materials deals that we have in our pipeline, and also do smart acquisitions that is not going to drag us under, right? And so I think we're executing a strategy for inorganic and organic growth. I think we're in great shape.
So Jin, with that, where can our audience go and find more information on WidePoint?
You can find more information at www.widepoint.com, or you can contact our IR firm called Gateway Investors Relations, and their number is 949-574-3860. Alternatively, you could go to their website, gatewayir.com.
Very good. Well, Jin, thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. Good luck. Stay safe. And I look forward to our next update. And see you in Vegas.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Robert. Go Patriots.